participants will be muted except for the speakers. Also note that the sessions is being recorded live, and question and answer sessions for media personnel and other participants will be held at the end of the event. You can ask your questions during the event as long as it's in the specific Q&A box. The moderator will then read out the questions to the respective speakers or our UNCDF technical team during the Q&A session. Let us begin. The Attorney General and Minister for Economy, Civil Service and Communications, Honorable Ayaz Sayed Qayyum, Distinguished Governor of the Reserve Bank of Fiji, Mr. Arif Ali, Excellencies, Heads and Representatives of Diplomatic Missions, Mr. Levan Boadzi, UNDP Pacific Office Resident Representative, invited guests and participants, ladies and gentlemen. Nisa Mbulavinaka, good afternoon and a warm welcome to you all to this virtual launching ceremony of Fiji's first parametric microinsurance product organized by the United Nations Capital Development Fund Pacific Insurance Climate and Adaptation Program. To kick off today's virtual event, please allow me to welcome Mr. Levan Boadzi to give his inaugural speech.
Thank you, Olivia. I want to make sure that I'm heard. Is that okay?
You're audible,
Olivia?
sir.
All right, thank you. Thank you, colleagues. So let me just make myself, adjusted to the telecommuting delivery. So I really want to start with welcoming Honorable Attorney General and Minister for Economy, Ayaz Sayed Qayyum, New Zealand High Commissioner, His Excellency Jonathan Kerr, Australian High Commissioner, His Excellency John Hicks, Indian High Commissioner, His Excellency Subramanian Karthikeyan, Mr. Arif Ali, Reserve Bank of Fiji Governor, members of the Diplomatic Corps, head of UN agencies, senior government officials, senior private sector representatives and invited guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, Bula Vinaka, and very good afternoon to you all. First and foremost, I wish to acknowledge the presence of the Honorable AG and the Minister, Mr. Sayed Qayyum, and take this opportunity to thank the government of Fiji for supporting this landmark initiative to launch the inaugural parametric microinsurance in the region. Next, I would like to acknowledge the presence and participation of the respective High Commissioners from New Zealand, Australia, and India, as well as the Governor of Reserve Bank of Fiji and other senior officials for gracing us with their presence. And at this juncture, I wish to thank the government of Australia, New Zealand, India, and Luxembourg for their generous support rendered to the various UNDP and UNCD initiatives in Fiji. The team spirit indeed, and Vinaka Vakalevo for that. The United Nations 2018-2022 Pacific Strategy has a strong emphasis on climate change and disaster risk management. These are two critical issues confronted this region, and this concern is compounded with the recent release of the United Nations IPCC report that reinforces once again that the climate change is widespread, rapid, and intensifying. And the report is the United Nations Secretary General's code red for humanity. Report anticipates that the cyclones are going to become more intense and frequent in the future, and we must prepare accordingly. And addressing climate change is a UN strategic priority in the region, and we are integrating it into our programming to promote resilient and sustainable development in the Pacific. So esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, by 2022, the aim is to make Pacific Islanders more resilient to the impact of climate change, climate variability, and disaster. This microinsurance project, which we're launching today, in our belief, it's a game changer. It will help us navigate in advanced disasters, especially with the cyclone season. And it's once again, we know that is imminent, and unfortunately. We hope that through this program, we are able to foster an insurance culture in Fiji and the Pacific region, given the financial security it provides during a crisis. The Pacific Insurance and Climate Adaptation Program, as we call it, PCAP, is jointly implemented by the UNCDF, UNDP, and United Nations University. And together with the Fijian government, it developed this innovative insurance product. On behalf of UNDP, and I salute the leadership of the Fijian government and the government of Australia, New Zealand, India, and Luxembourg for their support towards this initiative. Congratulations clearly to everyone involved in this project, and thank you to our public and private sector partners. We applaud you all for staying the course during these difficult times, but the real challenge, we believe, starts now. Keep up the good work, and I wish you all the very best. Vinaka Vakalevo.
Thank you, Mr. Boadzi, for your special address. Next on our agenda, ladies and gentlemen, Pranil Pritesh, the Regional Technical Specialist for UNCDF, will be giving us a brief overview of the Parametric microinsurance product through a short presentation. Over to you, Mr. Pritesh.
Thank you, Olivia. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. I will take you all through a brief overview of the pilot product. I hope the screen is clear. So the Parametric microinsurance product has been developed keeping in mind the pain points of Fijians during disasters and the need to provide immediate funds soon after. Fiji is ranked the 15th most hazardous country in the world by the World Risk Index 2020. And the frequency of cyclones and floods are expected to increase in the coming years due to climate change. We know that it's not a question of if a disaster strikes, but when. As such, through the pilot Parametric microinsurance product, the aim is to provide immediate cash liquidity post-disaster to beneficiaries and to also support Fiji and the region's efforts to building financial resilience. Under the pilot, there are currently two versions of cover for Parametric microinsurance. Cover 1 is a pure high wind speed cover, while cover 2 is a combined cover for high wind speed and rainfall. The total sum insured is Fijian $1,000 under each option. This will be reviewed after the pilot and suitably increased later. The products are index-based, that is, they are based on predefined triggers, and claims will be paid out according to a payout structure as soon as the thresholds for wind speed and/or rainfall is met or exceeded. The payouts are based on the highest gust wind speed and/or recorded rainfall during the event. The product covers perils against Category 1 to Category 5 cyclone and will cover all injuries within a 100-kilometer distance from the eye of the storm. Depending on the severity of the cyclone and the client's location from the eye of the storm, graded payments will be made as soon as the triggers are met. The microinsurance scheme will provide coverage for 12 months, and multiple events within one policy are covered up to a maximum of 100% of the sum insured. This is quite an important point, actually, so I'll repeat that. Multiple events within one policy year are covered up to a maximum of 100% of the sum insured. The defining feature of parametric insurance is that it pays out the agreed amount when the event happens. Hence, there is no need for verification of actual loss to take place for the beneficiary to receive the payout. All payouts are anticipated to be made within 10 to 15 days after an event occurs, allowing beneficiaries to immediately begin recovery. Since UNCDF has been pioneering digital financial services in Fiji and the region, all payouts to beneficiaries will be made to their bank account or their mobile wallets, either through Vodafone's M-Pesa or Digicel's MyCash. This product is a culmination of our efforts in building partnerships with our key insurance partners, the private sector insurers, namely Sun Insurance and Fiji Insurance, awareness and advocacy partner, the Consumer Council of Fiji, and aggregator and distribution partners who are the Cane Farmers Cooperative Savings and Loan Association, or CCSLA, Fiji Cotton Millers Limited, Fiji Rice Limited, and the Talabo Dairy Farmers Cooperative Association Limited. So far, collectively, we have registered over 400 farmers, fishers, market vendors, and counting. And through the launch today, their insurance covers will become effective. At present, the product will only be offered as a group cover through our aggregator partners, but by next year, we are aiming to offer individual covers through a smartphone application, as well as parametric insurance specifically to small and medium enterprises. We'd also like to acknowledge the support of the Governor of the Reserve Bank of Fiji and his team for their guidance. The product and platform are also the first initiatives that will be tested and rolled out under the RBF Secretary Sandbox guidelines. Thanks to all the farmers, market vendors, and aggregators for the support during field interviews for the demand side study on the parametric microinsurance product. And we'll look forward to the continued commitment and partnerships to make this deployment a success. Thank you, and over to you, Olivia.
Thank you, Mr. Kutesh, for that informative presentation. Invited guests, it is with great pleasure that I invite the Honorable Minister to deliver his keynote address and launch Fiji and the Pacific region's first ever parametric microinsurance product.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Governor of the Reserve Bank of Fiji, the High Commission of Australia, India, and New Zealand, UNDP resident rep, members of the diplomatic corps, members of the private sector, ladies and gentlemen. As I said, a very good morning to all of you. The climate and disaster risk parametric microinsurance product we launched today is indeed a game-changing, market-led solution to some of the toughest challenges faced by climate vulnerable communities. It has taken a very long, complex, and cooperative journey to get us here. And that journey began more than 5 years ago. Cyclone Winston struck Fiji in 2016 as the strongest storm on record in our hemisphere. It wiped out the equivalent of 1/3 of our GDP in 36 hours. We responded to the devastation as quickly as our capacity allowed. We conducted sweeping damage assessments across our islands, and we estimated what assistance was required at the level of individual households. Our priority was on socioeconomic security and on building back better, and we achieved both aims. However, the rapid deployment of assistance following Winston, while certainly decisive, was clearly suited to an age when superstorms were once in a generation occurrence. They aren't, not anymore at least. The climate emergency is here, and it is intensifying faster than we feared. We needed a deeper toolbox of financial instruments that are fast deploying, as well as sustainable over long term. And we saw climate and disaster risk insurance as one of the most sustainable shields of protection we can offer climate vulnerable communities. In the 5 years since Winston, 12 more cyclones have struck Fiji. The average losses due to cyclones and floodings are estimated more than $500 million annually, which is more than 5% of our GDP. The shocking findings of the most recent IPPC report merely confirm the worst fears of Pacific Islanders, that climate change is the single most pervasive driver of loss in livelihoods, food security, health, and housing. Through it all, we have worked tirelessly to develop a climate and disaster insurance solution that can extend a sustainable lifeline of financial security to our people on the front line of future disasters. The product had to meet 3 high bars. It had to be affordable, fit for purpose, and attractive to insurance agencies. Our work with the UNDP, UNCDF, Pacific Insurance and Climate Adaptation Program, our PCAP, since 2019, has led to the development of Fiji's first ever climate and disaster risk parametric microinsurance product, or parametric product in short, that is affordable enough to serve low-income individuals who cannot qualify for conventional insurance products and attractive enough to bring the private sector on board. I wish to take this opportunity to thank the governments of New Zealand, Australia and India and Luxembourg for their support to make this parametric product a reality. Initiatives such as these need your continued support as they bring about practical solutions targeted towards transformative changes that address systemic challenges to climate change, disaster resilience, and national development. This parametric product offers 2 covers to help affected households respond to cyclone and flood risks, as highlighted earlier on. Both carry a maximum coverage of 1,000 Fijian dollars with annual premiums of 100 Fijian dollars. That means for less than $2 a week, a Fijian household that is vulnerable to the devastation of future storms can forge themselves a shield financial security. They will not wait for the government to pay them after a storm strikes. Assistance will be available to them very quickly. After a cyclone or flooding event, the $2 per week investment will yield the ability to purchase immediate food items. $2 a week will support rapid repair of homes. $2 per week will allow the enabling of the purchase of post-disaster hygiene items, cooking stoves, blankets, and clothes. $2 per week will give the ability to purchase seeds and basic farming materials for farming. $2 per week means the ability to repair fishing boats and resume income generation. $2 per week, ladies and gentlemen, could be the difference between inescapable welfare and liberating workfare. When the next cyclone Winston arrives, we have to be ready. And this insurance product is one part of a much larger whole. We are accelerating adaptation and ensuring national decisions and investment are climate sensitized. We are climate proofing every aspect of our sustainable development. The draft climate change bill tabled in Parliament last week is synergistic to this approach. The bill creates a legally enforceable requirement designed to increase responsibility and accountability amongst government and non-government stakeholders in relation to the management of current and future climate risks. Parametric microinsurance products have localized such risk-informed development amongst the most vulnerable segments of society. This product does more than offer security against climate and disaster risks. It furthers our long-standing effort to build a financially inclusive Fiji. It helps create a culture of long-term planning and financial sustainability. That is why the Fijian government has supported the pilot of this parametric product by providing grant support to PCAP through the government of Luxembourg. We have also completely removed VAT on parametric climate and disaster risk microinsurance products to help improve affordability and market viability of such products. I understand that the Reserve Bank of Fiji, of course, and in fact I know, has played an important role to support the pilot of this parametric product by enabling a sandbox regulatory environment for insurers and aggregators involved. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, the faster we deploy financial resources to rebuild, the faster we bring hope to families in the front line of a disaster. The success of parametric insurance products depends on experienced delivery agencies that have pre-existing channels to efficiently collect premiums and rapidly disburse payouts. It is critical that local insurance providers offer tailored climate and disaster risk solutions that are affordable and fit for purpose. In this respect, I must thank Fiji Care and Sun Insurance, for being part of this initiative. Your close involvement in development of the parametric product and your willingness to be joint delivery partners is testament to your genuine commitment to our country. I encourage you to invest appropriate internal resources to eventually take up such innovative products as part of the flagship product portfolio. I wish to also acknowledge the aggregator agencies who have been proactive in helping develop this product, a parametric product for the members. You now have an important responsibility to not only manage this parametric insurance, cover on your members' behalf, but also to help scale it further. Access to climate and disaster risk insurance for your members must become a fundamental KPI for your organizations. Ladies and gentlemen, this launch is a milestone for our fast maturing insurance and financial sectors as they evolve to keep pace with our warming world. Thanks to this product and other work we're going to adapt, we can protect the progress Fiji is making towards all of the SDGs. We will continue to put innovation front and center and march to the mantra of pilot first, scale later to minimize inherent investment risks. Before wrapping up, I want to remind all of us why we are in this crisis at all. It is unchecked carbon emissions that have warmed the planet and put Fijian families at the cold face of climate change. Indeed, like many other island nations around the world, the Pacific and the Caribbean, and even in the Indian Ocean. As our Prime Minister, Frank Bainimarama, has made clear in the strongest possible terms, Fiji is demanding decisive and ambitious national commitments to cut carbon emissions by 2030 and tangible and transformative action to achieve net zero emissions by 2050 or indeed sooner. We need to have zero excuses. With that, I now have the pleasure to officially launch Fiji's first ever climate and disaster risk parametric microinsurance product. Naka, thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for launching such a milestone initiative, as you pointed out, and for your powerful address. So today is historic for Fiji and the Pacific, and we are extremely thankful to you and the government of Fiji for the support to the Pacific Insurance and Climate Adaptation Program. Ladies and gentlemen, now we move on to the issuance of the first group parametric microinsurance policy contract by Fiji Care and Sun Insurance to the cooperatives and certificates of insurance to select members. We will now have the management team from CCSLA presenting the certificate of insurance to the first policyholders under this initiative.
Thank you, Olivia. Bula Vinaka, dear Excellencies and esteemed guests, on behalf of the CCSLA Board of Directors, Management and staff, I take this opportunity to extend our sincere gratitude to the Attorney General and Minister for Economy, Civil Service and Communications, the Honorable Ayat Syed Qayyum, and the government of the day, the various donors, the UNCDF PICAP team, and other stakeholders involved for your collective support to this great initiative, which is being well received by our member shareholders from the different targeted beneficiaries. CCSLA is deeply honored to be chosen as a distribution partner for this scheme. So far, we have registered 130 members for the product, and based on the positive feedback on the ground, we will be registering and onboarding more members in the days to come and the weeks. I would also like to acknowledge the Board of Directors, Management and staff, and the members of CCSLA Limited for their cooperation and support since the project rollout began in July this year. I will now announce the names of the recipients as they come up front with their certificates. With all protocols being observed for this COVID-19, we have requested that as each recipient comes forward, they will kindly take their masks off for the benefit of the viewers and the camera. Vinaka. Merendani Tulia. Sainimili Salaveva. Kaliopa Senibalati. Narayan. And Sylvester Parmen Prasad. Vinaka Bakalebu from CCSLA Limited in Lotoka. Over to you, MC. Naka.
Thank you, Losana and the team at CCSLA for your great work. It is indeed great news to hear about the numbers you have mentioned and the positive feedback received. We will now move on to the next item on the agenda. Esteemed guests, I have the honor in welcoming the New Zealand High Commissioner to Fiji, His Excellency Jonathan Kerr, to give his special address and thereafter launch the digital iOnboard platform.
Thank you very much, Olivia. Honourable Attorney General and Minister for Economy, Governor of the Reserve Bank of Fiji, UNDP resident representative, Australian High Commissioner, Indian High Commissioner, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Tēnā koutou katoa, bula vinaka, and warm Pacific greetings to you all. First of all, allow me to congratulate the Honourable Minister for his keynote address and to commend the Fiji government for supporting this important and progressive initiative. I would also like to acknowledge and thank UNCDF, UNDP, UNU, and other UN agencies jointly involved in the implementation of the Pacific Insurance and Climate Adaptation Program for the invitation to deliver brief remarks on behalf of the New Zealand government. I clearly recall the program launch on the 2nd of December 2020 and its ambitious plan to develop the Pacific regions and Fiji's first ever market-based parametric microinsurance product. In the short span of 6 months, the program has completed the development and deployment of a parametric microinsurance product, which is a significant achievement given the current extenuating circumstances. In June 2021, the program's progress report highlighted multifaceted achievements across all 4 pillars of the program, showing a high level of professionalism and the leadership and management of the initiative, as well as the teamwork supported by all partners. This launch event signifies an important milestone in Fiji's disaster risk management strategy, making available an affordable and accessible climate risk insurance product that addresses specific needs of smallholder farmers, fishers, and other vulnerable sectors, including women and youth. Climate change has exacerbated extreme weather events, with 1 or more Pacific countries being affected by a catastrophic event every year. Those on low incomes and vulnerable population segments are disproportionately affected. Farmers, fishers, and small businesses also face untold challenges with their incomes affected post-disaster. The recent pilot rollout of parametric microinsurance is both timely and expected to respond to the aspirations and needs of the market, while addressing a significant and persistent development challenge. I understand that UNCDF proposes to use the pilot test results to further improve product offerings and to explore extending cover for other livelihood sectors and MSMEs in due course. Another notable feature of this UNCDF-led initiative is the bringing together of different stakeholders, namely the private sector, NGOs, key government ministries and departments, and UN agencies to work together towards a common objective, the results of which we are witnessing today. New Zealand, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade, is pleased to support this initiative. And as I mentioned on the 2nd of December last year, when launching the Pacific Insurance and Climate Adaptation Program, New Zealand remains fully committed to supporting climate action in the Pacific and to building disaster risk resilience to address the vulnerabilities of low-income populations. I understand that the program will soon start looking at scaling up within Fiji and then replicating this experience in Vanuatu and other Pacific countries in a phased manner. The VAT exemption provided to the parametric insurance premium by the Fiji government in its recent 2021-2022 national budget amply demonstrates the importance placed by Fiji on this bold policy initiative to stimulate market development. This reinforces Fiji's recognised role as an innovator among small island developing states in addressing climate change and adaptation issues. This now brings me to the launch of the iOnboard digital member onboarding interface, and I am extremely happy to be involved in this, which the Pacific Insurance and Climate Adaptation Program has developed. This iOnboard platform will be used by cooperatives and aggregators for seamless flow of data from the field to the insurer and onwards to the reinsurers. Such solutions are aimed at improving last mile reach of products and services, in addition to reducing costs and time, all extremely important in business and in a post-COVID world. On behalf of the New Zealand government, I warmly congratulate the Pacific Insurance and Climate Adaptation Programme, UNCDF, UNDP, UNU, and all stakeholders who have come together to contribute to the successful launch of this parametric insurance product in Fiji. I wish you all the best. Stay safe. Tanaka Vakalebu, mā te wā.
Thank you, Excellency, for your remarks and launching the digital onboarding platform. The support of New Zealand government to the program is very much appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, the slides you see on the screen is just an insight on what the platform looks like. The media pack that we are putting together will have more specific information on the digital onboarding platform. The Pacific Insurance and Climate Adaptation Program also receives financial support from the governments of Australia through DFAT and the government of India through the India-UN Development Partnership Fund. I now have great pleasure in welcoming the Australian High Commissioner, His Excellency John Fix, to offer felicitations.
Good morning. I'm afraid my video is not working, so you'll just have to listen to me. The Honourable Attorney General, the Governor of the Reserve Bank, my esteemed New Zealand and Indian colleagues, the UNDP resident representative, members of the Diplomatic Corps, heads of UN agencies, senior government officials, private sector representatives, ladies and gentlemen. I'd first like to begin by thanking the Attorney General for his keynote address and to commend the Government of Fiji for its leading role in the Pacific Insurance and Climate Adaptation Program. I would also like to thank my New Zealand and Indian colleagues for their government support and for the support of the Government of Luxembourg as well. It's an honour to be here today for the launch of Fiji and the Pacific's first market-based parametric microinsurance product. As the Attorney General has mentioned, climate risk insurance is a key component in building climate resilience, providing a financial shield against natural disasters for lower income communities. This will benefit smallhold farmers, fishers, market vendors, and small business owners. You'll recall last year that Fiji faced the dual challenges of Tropical Cyclone Harold and the COVID pandemic, only to be followed by TC Yasa and Anna. These were a stark reminder that while we are heavily focused on the current threats and the impact, the devastating impact of COVID-19, the Pacific, including Fiji, remains highly vulnerable to extreme weather events, which are exacerbated by climate change. The start of Fiji's cyclone season in November is not far away. This is obviously an anxious time for vulnerable communities who have few financial resources to cope with the economic shocks of a tropical cyclone. Initiatives such as the Parametric microinsurance product launched today provide a way to improve disaster risk management and build financial resilience amongst lower income populations. This is a game changer in many respects, given the target group. And I'd like to commend the Government of Fiji's recent granting of a VAT exemption for all climate and disaster risk microinsurance products, making these products even more affordable. Affordable insurance assists vulnerable communities to bounce back more quickly after a disaster, allowing them to get on with their lives again more quickly. It's also pleasing to see that the beneficiaries will be registered through a digital platform, making the registration process efficient and, perhaps more importantly, the payouts quicker. This is clearly an impressive example of Pacific-led innovation, harnessing private sector finance for climate adaptation. The Australian government is pleased to be able to support Fiji's efforts, as well as those of the region in this area, through the Pacific Insurance and Climate Adaptation Program. I would like to join my New Zealand colleague in congratulating all the parties involved in this project, in particular the Government of Fiji, for bringing this product to launch. God bless you all and stay safe in these difficult times. Banaka baka levu.
Thank you, Excellency. You are correct. Initiatives such as this Parametric microinsurance product is there to truly assist the vulnerable communities. Ladies and gentlemen, I now invite His Excellency Kartigayan Subramanian, the new High Commissioner of India to Fiji, who has recently assumed charge. We welcome you, sir, to Fiji and request you to offer your felicitations on this occasion.
Thank you. Honorable Attorney General and Minister for Economy, Mr. Ayaz Sayed Qayyum, the New Zealand High Commissioner to Fiji, His Excellency Jonathan Kerr, the Australian High Commissioner to Fiji, His Excellency John Feeks, the Governor of Reserve Bank of Fiji, Mr. Arif Ali, the representative of UNDP in Fiji, Mr. Levan Bodos, members of the Diplomatic Corps, heads of UN agencies, senior government officials, CEOs, private sector representatives, ladies and gentlemen. Nisa Bula Vinaka, Namaste, and good morning to all of you. It is such a pleasure for me to join all on this very historic occasion for the launch of Fiji's first parametric microinsurance product. Let me first acknowledge the keynote address of the Honorable Minister and compliment the Fiji government for supporting this landmark initiative. Likewise, I would also like to acknowledge my esteemed colleagues from New Zealand, Australia, and their government's continued support for this initiative. I would also like to acknowledge the UNDP resident representative, Levan, and the implementing partners, UNCDE and the UN University. Excellencies and ladies and gentlemen, India, you know, has been a long-term development partner and friend to Fiji and the Pacific Island countries, and we will continue to have a very strong presence here. The pilot launch of this parametric microinsurance initiative is truly a historic event for a region that is so vulnerable to natural disasters. Climate and disaster risk financing instruments are very essential for recovery and risk management following the natural disasters. This initiative will also assist the government's disaster response efforts and policies and ease the burden on the public purse. This initiative addresses also an important gap in the insurance market, providing low-income households with a post-disaster recovery financial resource. India is so proud to support this initiative through the India-UN Development Partnership Fund managed by the UN Office for South-South Cooperation. It would be interesting to note that India has committed a total of US $150 million to the India-UN Development Partnership Fund, and most of this assistance is earmarked for small island developing states. India-UN partnership is rooted in the philosophy of Sarvodaya, which means development and progress of all. It only further reinforces our worldview, which shapes our entire foreign policy, which is again another beautifully encapsulated in another traditional verse called Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam, which essentially means the whole humanity is one family. These simple yet profound messages are the underlying central theme in all our projects, including those in the Pacific and initiatives such as this. We are keen to share our development experience in solidarity with our fellow developing countries to build a more resilient and safer world. The experience and expertise of India in tackling natural disasters will be shared through the South-South Cooperation Platform. In this regard, we are so proud to be working alongside our friends, Australia and New Zealand, on this multilateral project, and together we will continue to seek such collaborative opportunities. International cooperation will be key to achieving the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, and this project truly embodies the spirit of multilateralism and realizing the goal of leaving no one behind. Finally, I would like to, on behalf of the Indian government, congratulate everyone involved in this project and thank all our public and private sector partners. Before I conclude, I would also like to thank the project team for their excellent work and wish them all good luck and Godspeed. Thank you, and Vinaka Wakaleu.
Thank you, Your Excellencies, for such kind words and remarks. We truly appreciate and are grateful for your support, availability, and participation in this event. Invited guests, we now open up the floor to the members of press and media, as well as other participants, to post their questions using the chat option, and our moderator, Vema, will read out the questions for the respective dignitary or member of the UNCDF team to respond. In the interest of time, any other remaining questions that is not addressed during this virtual event, we will respond to by email later. Thank you for your understanding.
Thank you, Olivia. Esteemed guests, colleagues, and friends, we have now reached the final segment of our event today, the Q&A session. You may recall earlier, Olivia requested that if you had any questions throughout the event, that you pop them into our Q&A box. Sorry, is everyone able to hear me okay?
Yes, Vema, we can hear you.
Perfect. So for the next 10 minutes, I will read out your questions and direct them to the relevant speakers. If you do wish to ask questions yourselves, please do raise your hand. I will unmute you and allow you to do so. I do request that once I unmute you, that you introduce yourselves, providing your name, the organization you're from, and the speaker your question is directed towards. I would also like to request that we focus our questions on the current topic and not divert too much. The Parametric microinsurance product and the iOnboard platform are both important initiatives, and we hope they get proper coverage. Thank you. Now, I do not see any questions in our Q&A box as yet, so I will open up the floor to questions from attendees. Please do raise your hand.
Yeah, Vema, in the interest of time, maybe Ranadi can go for vote of thanks.
Sure. So it looks like there are no questions. I'll pass it on to Ranandi now.
Sorry, Vema, I think there are a couple of questions coming in now.
Oh, yes.
So the first question is, will the product be launched in other countries in the Pacific? The answer is yes. It is envisaged that after the pilot is completed in Fiji, the next countries where this rollout will happen would be Vanuatu, Tonga, Papua New Guinea, in that order. Thank you.
There is another question. Are there any plans to subsidize the insurance premiums for the Parametric insurance product?
Well, this is a market-based initiative, and as such, there are no plans to introduce subsidies, and that will be left to the respective governments to sort of decide at a later stage, and for donors to support if there is an option. I mean, if there's an opportunity. So at this stage, it's a market-based product. Thanks.
Thank you. I do see Lasana's hand is raised. Lasana, please do go ahead with your question.
Her question is, any plans to accommodate insurance against drought for our Fijian farmers? Yes, the next product is going to be a drought product. We now have the heavy wind and the rainfall product. The drought product would also be introduced next. There's another question saying that how many policies can one person have? So for the pilot, we are keeping it at a cover of one for $1,000. But based on the results, there is a possibility of this being expanded to add additional policies based on the purchase power and based on other KYC requirements that may have to be fulfilled. There is another question asking, are there any plans to launch it to larger retailers and SME beneficiaries through a mobile platform? I think, as indicated by like Pranil in his presentation, there is a separate body of work that is going to be looking at SME insurance that requires a bit of research into their existing risk profiles and the type of products that will suit them. And that's going to start later this year. Thank you. There is another question about what population size does parametric microinsurance cover for Fiji? Now, right now, there is a bundled microinsurance that is offered by Fiji Care, which covers about 125,000 individuals. This particular parametric microinsurance product initially looks at covering about 1,000 people before the end of this year. And then we certainly hope to reach more than 3,000 to 5,000 by next year.
Fiji flag is gone out of the focus.
Sorry, Krishnan, there's a question from Josiana Pita.
Is Fiji's legislation prepared to accommodate this product soon? Yes. I think this product has been vetted by the Reserve Bank of Fiji and appropriate approvals have been. Are there similar products in New Zealand and Australia to ensure farmers against climate risks? Yes, there are products available in those countries as well. Thanks. So Olivia, I think the rest of the questions we can probably take later on through email.
Okay, thank you, Krishnan. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for all your questions. And as Krishnan mentioned, if you have any further questions or clarifications, please feel free to reach out to one of the UNCDF technical team. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we have now come closer to the end of the event. I would like to take this opportunity to invite my colleague Ranandi to give the vote of thanks.
Thanks, Oli. The Honourable Attorney General and the Minister for Economy, Civil Service and Communications, Mr. Ayaz Sayed Qayyum, Distinguished Governor of the Reserve Bank of Fiji, Mr. Arif Ali, Excellencies, the High Commissioners of Australia, India and New Zealand, UNDP Resident Representative, members of the Diplomatic Corps, and other distinguished guests and participants. It is with great privilege and honor to extend a vote of thanks on this historic occasion of launching Fiji's first ever parametric microinsurance product and the iOnboard platform. We gratefully acknowledge the presence of the Honourable Attorney General in today's program. Being able to take time off his extremely busy schedule reflects the high commitment and the support of the Fiji government to initiatives such as this in improving financial resilience for Fijians. Thank you, Minister, for your support, participation, and launching this initiative. I would also like to extend our vote of thanks to our donors, New Zealand, Australia, and India. We are extremely grateful for the confidence and funding support you provide to the PCAP program, and thank you for graciously accepting our invitation and your presence. We also take this opportunity to express our sincere hearty thanks to our partners, the Reserve Bank of Fiji, our insurance partners, our project partners, members of the PCAP Investment Committee, the PCAP Technical Advisory Committee, heads of senior management that implement PCAP, UNDP, UNCDF, UNU, and all other national, regional, and global partners. Thank you for your guidance, your stewardship, your partnership, your expertise, and all the hard work that you contribute to the achievement of the objectives envisioned under this program. Thank you to the interpreters for your support and to the press and the media for the excellent coverage. We seek your continued support to amplify the program results and achievements. Last but not least, I would like to thank the hardworking UNCDF Pacific team, the communications team, the programs team, UNDP's IT support for their tremendous effort into organizing this event and making it a successful one. And thanks to the 144 participants from 35 countries that have joined in today's event. Stay safe, God bless, and Vinaka Bakalebu.
Vinaka Ranadi for the vote of thanks, invited guests. That brings us to the end of this virtual event. Wishing you all a wonderful afternoon, and again, keep safe and do take care. Vinaka.
Vinaka Bakalebu.